All right, everybody, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. I want to talk about this. I've had a lot of, maybe sheepish or discouraged feeling comic book creators that have told me sometime in the past 3 months or so that they don't want to crowdfund anymore, that they're basically discouraged from crowdfunding because they believe that the market is shrinking and that spark of magic that once existed is gone. And, basically their comic book dreams are disintegrating in front of them. Not so fast, I say. Do not fret. This situation's a lot more complex and nuanced than I think it's been given credit for. I've got Edwin Boyette's tweet up here just because he addressed it. He's not the only person that's addressed it, but he did so recently, and so I wanted to pull it up and look at some of the things that he said to sort of springboard off of. But before we get into that, let me remind you that my book Downcast 2 is coming out. It's going to complete the story. You'll be able to get the first book and the second book all in one shot if you haven't backed it before. The best thing that you can do is join the mailing list. It is in the description below, and that'll get you access to discounted secret perks that other people do not have access to. And I promise I will not spam you. All right, so Edwin Boyette brought this up, and basically he's looking at Iron Sights 1 versus Iron Sights 2 and how many backers stuck around for the next book. Now, I've had a lot of people ask about this, not just for Iron Sights, but also for Cyberfrog. And the reason why so many people have their eyes on those campaigns is because they're big. There's more data there because of all the sheer number of backers that they pull into these campaigns. Not only that, but if you're crowdfunding comics, chances are your customers are probably backing one or both of those other books. There is a lot of overlap. To be able to decide exactly how much, again, it's really impossible to know. Now, typically for books of any kind, I'm not just talking about comic books, but any kind, even like Harry Potter, Maze Runner, I'm trying to think of any other popular book, The Hunger Games, you're going to sell more of the first book because that's the gateway drug essentially for people to get into the series. That's the way it works. Number 2s in the series are going to have some kind of a step down. Now, Edwin brought up that that's not the same for crowdfunded books. I actually think that it is. It is still the same. Hear me out. Okay, this is why Twitter is a terrible place to have these conversations. But Iron Sights 2, like many campaigns, for a second go at it, they're going to include the first book as well. And that is because there's going to be new people. In this case, 999. That is an insane number. If you think about it, that's a whole over a third, almost half of the backers that have backed this campaign went in to get Iron Sights 1. Now, it could be that they already had Iron Sights 1 and they wanted another copy. That's totally, entirely possible. It's also possible and probable that there's a good number of people that jumped into this campaign that never got Iron Sights 1. And so that's why they're backing at this tier. So these are actually new customers. This is why it's so complicated. It's very, very difficult to determine how many people are going from the first campaign on to the second campaign. I imagine that Zach probably has more information on this just because of his mailing lists and his, the back end analytics. You could probably figure some things out in Indiegogo. But it would still be very, very difficult to say because everybody has such a unique situation. Setting all of that aside, though, Iron Sights number 2 has fewer backers by about a third, fewer backers than Iron Sights 1. Is that a problem? Does that mean that crowdfunding is not viable for you if you're a first-time creator? Does that mean it's going to be more difficult? Does that mean that, more people hate Zach in this instance? Again, it's so complex. By any measure, this, of course, is an extremely successful campaign. I can only hope that I'll have that many backers someday. It's amazing just in and of itself, and it's just barely in the in-demand phase. And so I would not be surprised whatsoever if it earned another $30,000, $30,000. I'm not sure how long it's going to be open. Something else that gets overlooked quite often, I know people think it's like maybe the elephant in the room, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. And that is when a lot of these campaigns, I'm going to even pull up Cyberfrog, Bloodhoney. When these campaigns launched, there was a lot of hubbub around crowdfunding. And a lot of the stuff going on had to do with a guy named Mark Wade. Now, if you're worried that there is no massive conflict that's causing Comedy Central to make TV spots about all of this. If you're worried that all of that stuff has kind of died down, yeah, you're right, it has died down. But if you think that means that crowdfunding is not a viable option for comic books, I would say that you're completely wrong. The better question to ask is what number of core backers are going to be going back time and time again to get the next installment of a story, and they're going to be excited about it. They're going to be talking about it, telling their friends, and being long customers into the future. And so people have been wondering this a lot about Cyberfrog. I know, because I've been hearing it. Cyberfrog Blood Honey versus Cyberfrog Wrecked Planet, I believe is the next one. What is the backer number going to be on the next book? I know it's launching soon too. We will find out for sure, and we'll know how much momentum at least Ethan Van Sciver has for Cyberfrog, and it will be interesting to compare it to what Richard Meyer was able to do. I'm going to take a guess here, and don't get mad at me, it's just for fun, okay? Let me know your guess in the comments below, but I'm going to guess at what I think, how many backers I think that the next Cyberfrog book is going to get. This is my justification for that. Okay, so here's the first campaign, 8,566 backers. That's a lot of backers. That is a lot of backers. Now I'm going to go to the Cyberfrog Blood Honey team up cover. I picked this one only because Cyberfrog had been closed for many months, and then this one opened, and I know a lot of people were pretty jazzed to get it either for the first time. Again, this is why you get so much crossover, or you've got people that already backed the earlier campaigns and they just wanted this additional variant cover. That's also a totally legitimate possibility. The truth is you're going to have a mixture of people in this 4,805 backers. Again, by any metric, that is massive. And you're also going to get a number of people that already backed the first one, and they're not going to back this particular campaign because it's just a variant cover. They already got theirs, right? I'm going to guess that it's probably going to be around 6,000 backers. Quote me on that. We'll see if I'm wrong or not. It very well could be. I'm just going to take a shot at it. Why not? 6,000 backers is incredibly impressive, though, if that happens. Heck, even 4,000 backers is incredibly impressive. But the question is, how sustainable is it? How sustainable is it, and can you start a new market here? Brian Pulido is, I think, really the best person to look at because he just has such a track record that you can look at. He's got 18 campaigns that have launched on Kickstarter, not Indiegogo. Regardless, it doesn't really matter all that much because he's the one sending his customers there to back the campaigns. So if I go back to the beginning, I can see, his first Lady Death campaign, he had 1,038 backers. That's really impressive. It's also really encouraging for me in particular because I'm not, Downcast is not that far behind. We're talking about 1,000, or not 1,000, about 100 backers lower than what he got. And so I think that it's close. It's doable. We will see. I don't know. His next campaign was 1,004 backers. Now you could say, well, it's less. I don't think it's much less, though. I think the difference is pretty negligible. He got the book out. He proved that he could do it for the second time. On the third go around, this is not Lady Death, 592 backers. That sounds pretty good. I'm sure he was not feeling great about that. Then he had, I don't know which one is this one, La Muerta, 790 backers, better, but still not the same numbers. Then he went back to Lady Death, 922 backers, starting to get back up to where he was. Here's another La Muerta, Lady Death, back up to 1,300 backers. Next Lady Death, 1,400 backers. Next one, 896. And you can see these Lady Death books are really what just does well for him. Sort of fast forwarding here to the future a little bit, 1,700 backers, 1,988 backers, 1,097. Again, this one is not Lady Death, so it's not his flagship character, I'd say. Next one, back to Lady Death, 2,363 backers. Very impressive. 1,700, 2,500. You get the idea. As you can see, though, the backer numbers aren't the same every single time. You're not ever going to get the exact number of people that backed it on the last campaign to move over. The question is, how many brand new people are you pulling in to refill, the campaign after the other ones have gone? And How many diehard fans do you have that are going to keep coming back and buying the books? A couple of my predictions for 2020. If you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it. Thank you. I still think that 2020 is going to be a big year for crowdfunded comics. At the rate of books just breaking records on Indiegogo, if you think about it, there were 2 new records last year that surpassed that first Cyberfrog campaign. I suspect that there's going to be another record-breaking campaign in 2020, at least one more. And that is because a lot of people are starting to look at Indiegogo as another route to comics. Not only that, but a lot of people are going to Indiegogo to back comics. There's something uniquely fun about backing crowdfunded books that you kind of don't really get at the comic book shop or elsewhere. And so I really do think that crowdfunding is here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future. So should you be putting your campaign up on Indiegogo yourself? Should you be crowdfunding? I think if it's something that you want to do, yes, you can do it. As long as you understand there's a lot more to it than just posting a campaign. There is a lot more work to it than that, and driving people to your campaign. But if you can do that, then do it. It is absolutely still a great avenue, and I still think the best avenue to get your comics out there. Even if you are a new creator that has no name, it's going to be a little bit more of an uphill battle for you, and you're probably not going to expect the same kind of big numbers. But I don't know. We'll see. For me in particular, I am really interested for a couple reasons. One is because obviously I'm self-interested. I want my campaigns to do well, and I'll be honest, I want to make comics for a living. This is what I want to do. On the other hand, I think that I'm kind of in a unique situation in that I am a new creator that was built on Indiegogo. And so it'll be interesting to see how the next campaign goes, just to see how sustainable it is for somebody that doesn't already have an existing legacy behind him. And I've heard Zach say this before, that the third campaign means something about sustainability. Right now, I think with Downcast too, the fact that it's a number 2 in the series, it'll show something at least. It'll be interesting to see how many people are backing at a tier that gets them the first book, and how many people are backing again from the first campaign and they carried over. And then when I do a campaign later in the year with Charlie Snogans, with just, guys, seriously, top-notch art that everybody's going to want. Trust me, everybody is going to want it, but it will be a new number 1. And so how will those numbers affect the reality of crowdfunding as well? I don't know. Time will tell, but I'd love to know what your guesses are in the comments below. If you've got a guess for how much Cyberfrog is going to make, how many backers it'll have for the next installment, heck, even Downcast, I'm curious what your guesses are. And if you've been thinking about crowdfunding your own book, are you worried? I'm just curious to know what else might be on your mind that maybe I could address in future videos. Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time.